Welcome everyone to the Monday night live Q&A. Dr. Rob is joining tonight.
Hey,
So great to
Tammy.
see ya.
What can I say? It is a joy in my heart every time I see you. For 18 years, is that what you said? 18 years we've been working together?
Yes, it was
How do you
it's
know the
been more than
date?
18 years because I started at the previous place in
Huh?
February of 2007. I met you on
Uh,
my fourth day on the job. So
my God, I'm
so
surprised you
uh,
didn't quit that very day. I'm gonna
no,
have to
no,
deal
no,
with
no.
this.
He was on the board of director. I could probably replay most of our conversation. So, but I won't, but
Well, we're
I
good
could.
pair because I don't remember my last name. At least I'm not putting my keys in the refrigerator. But
Mhm.
anyway,
That's why
thank
I
you
call you
everybody for
Dr.
being.
Rob. You only have to remember your first name.
Thank you for sharing. I do want to say, all of you, that I'm always so glad to give this away. It is my favorite part of the day. And by the way, for a lot of our volunteers, and we had a little lunch with them to reward them, so many of them said, I have a practice, I'm really busy, but I really look forward to this. And I can't say why. I know what it is for me. But anyway, let's go at it. See if we can give some help.
Okay. So I put the first one in answered. Betrayed wife, husband in early recovery. We use Covenant Eyes and it sends blurred screenshots of concerning explicit websites to the accountability partner. Other wives of men in recovery don't want their husbands seeing those screenshots or seeing triggering web search language, which I completely understand. However, it's traumatizing when I, the partner, gets this if my husband has a slip or relapse. How can I find an accountability partner for filtering software? That's a great question. Thanks for
I
asking
like
that.
that. Well, Tammy, I can think of a bunch of answers, but from a partner's perspective, how would you respond to that? I'll maybe speak to how an addict program, all that.
Yeah. And I was thinking like I would not want to be the accountability person for my betraying partner. So I get that. And there are other options for I hear the blurred screenshots not okay. And I know and Covenant Eyes is just one of the filtering things. There are other or
Mhm.
options. So maybe there's a different option. I know like Dr. Rob was just talking about the drop-in groups, and there are people on there that get the images. They're further in recovery. They're whatever. It could be a sponsor, and again, if the sponsor has things set up, sometimes it's just a report of the sites that you've gone to. Sometimes the therapist, like if you're working with a qualified therapist, the therapist may be the person that receives that
Or a sponsor.
information. Yeah, a sponsor. But I hear like if the sponsor is in recovery and they don't want to get the blurred images or their spouse
There's
doesn't want
that,
them to get the
right?
blurred images, so where can you go? And yes,
Uh-huh.
finding a neutral person that isn't it doesn't have to worry about being triggered by that, et cetera. But here's the deal, like life is full of triggers, so what is it I'm going to do about my triggers? So it would also, if you're the peer person, the sponsor or whatever, what is it you're going to do when you get those blurred images? So but I'm kind of surprised. I didn't recall that Covenant Eyes did blurred images. I thought it was
There's
more
probably
website.
software. You could probably make choices, I would imagine,
Yeah,
inside of it.
yeah.
Um, well, a couple of things. And as Tammy would always say, I don't know if he's going to 12-step meetings. I don't know if you are. I don't know if he's going to support groups. I don't know if he has a therapist who works with this. So there's a lot of questions around people who would shape this work and be able to support you. But I can just tell you from my perspective, and I want everyone to know we don't know you. So we don't know the background and what's going on. We can only comment on what we see. Um, so I agree with Tammy. It's not your job to become his parole officer. And it sets up a dynamic in relationships, mom, child, it's just, it's not good for either one of you, especially for you. Because who wants to be in that relationship? Now they've hurt me, so I'm going to control everything about them and watch them every minute. Because as Tammy said, your sanity rides up and down and what happened and what he's doing. And, so anyway, there's that. But I guess what disturbs me is, first of all, why isn't he just telling you? Why do you have to find it? I mean, this is to me
Great
the
point.
most important part of recovery is I can't promise you one day at a time that I will not act out tomorrow. And I've been working on this for decades. But what I can promise you is that if it happens, I will come to you and say, I really have my problem, as my sponsor used to say, I've had a flare up of my mental illness and I'm really troubled and I'm really struggling and I'm getting help for it, but I have to be honest with you. So I think you should hear about this long before you see it. Um, It feels like this is frequent. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like it's something that happens occasionally. When you say these images has a slip or relapse, I don't. So just to the question, you are not the right person to be an accountability partner for sure. And I do think, and I'm not sure, maybe someone else in recovery, a recovery buddy, maybe someone you've met. I don't know, a therapist, but I feel like there's a setup in here somewhere. If you're even asking this question, it feels like, how do I, how do I, how do I catch him? Maybe that's not the way of saying it, but how do I don't know. It's not just about your being accountability partner. It feels like if I were you, I'd be waiting for the next shoe to drop and the next shoe to drop. And I don't feel, listening to this, I don't feel safe for you in a much bigger way than this. Um, and when I hear about what the spouses don't want, and I understand that, and I understand that would be triggering for him to see it. Well, actually, I don't understand quite. Men in recovery don't want their husbands seeing this. Right. So, well, your husband shouldn't get the accountability information. I mean, of course, you don't want him to get the triggering language or
No, but
she, and they
if
say, I
you're
understand.
another, yeah, if you're
But
another
right,
a person in recovery for these issues and you're getting somebody else's
right.
information, yeah.
So I guarantee that every one of these pieces of software, they're so complex now that there is some switch that you can pull and say, I don't want to see the image, just like images, blurred images. I'm sure there's just websites, and I think that, or a description of the website. So I do think that can be changed and adjusted so that in fact, I'm sure of it because not everyone recovering or sponsor gets these kinds of images. We would have heard this before. But more than that, again, it just feels like you're finding things out that I would rather hear from him. And I would, and if you talk about, by the way, I want to explain just as opportunity, what's a slip and what's a relapse, and then
Thank
we
you.
should go on. So a slip is, and I'll say this in a way that might be, troubling for some. I didn't make a big plan. I put myself in a situation. I was traveling and I did this and that, and this happened. But what I did immediately was I called people, I reached out, I told my spouse, I went back to the process and I took the consequences. Angry people, disappointed in myself, whatever it is. That's a slip. It literally means to slip, but then you pick yourself back up. But relapse is this happens and you don't tell anybody and you keep it to yourself. And then some part of an addict brain says, well, I got away with it this time. And all of a sudden it becomes, oh, again, a compartmentalization. And by the way, I can never have an honest, meaningful relationship with you if I'm lying. You may not know I'm lying, but inside of me, I can only let you get too close to me because, what if you see my distance from you? What if you see where I'm really, I mean, but a relapse is over and over and over again. And I just wanted to clarify for that, people. But if this, what I would ask is, how often is this happening? Because that would tell me, and by the way, a slip isn't, I have a slip 3 days later, I have a slip that's relapse. So anyway, Tammy, I don't know
Well,
if you have,
but one more caveat to that, you can't
sure.
if you're not in recovery, it's not a slip or a relapse. It's just like you're still in active addiction. And you said he's in very early, or you said in early recovery. So like this is the abstinent part. Like I'm just trying not to do the things that I'm not supposed to be doing. So I had one more idea. This is where a coach could be helpful. Like you're paying somebody to do accountability. That's different than therapy. That's different than a sponsor. There could be somebody, that could be on, I'm just going to do the accountability thing. I'm also going to tell you what I'm doing, for my program so that I'm stopping continuing to act out. So, but thanks for sharing that with the, like, yes, I see very
Yeah.
differently slips, relapse, abstinence, sobriety, recovery. Like
Yeah, it's confused.
there's different, yeah, there's
Sex addict,
difference in
love
things.
addict. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, we do our
Oh,
best. So,
okay.
but,
Next
yeah.
question. Go. Do you have something else?
No,
Okay.
I'm watching next question.
Okay. Hi, this question is from betrayed spouse. I have heard time frames for my recovery. For my recovery, this is from a spouse at 3 to 5 years. What is the time frame, and what are the factors to make this longer or shorter? Is it 100% at 3 years and or 10% at 3 years? What does my life look like for 3 years? I love this question. So yeah,
Well, I wish that there were a generalized answer, but I think I
yes.
mean, this comes down to the person.
Hmm.
If you've been betrayed by someone before, if you had some kind of trauma in the past, if you're emotionally vulnerable, been depressed, a lot of factors play into, some people are very resilient. I don't like the word, but they are. And some people just really, I'm depressed. I have a depressive, the way I might bounce back from a very, very difficult set of circumstances and might take a much longer time than someone who doesn't have this sort of genetic makeup. So I think to generalize is partly to say, oh, well, I'm not where I should be. And I don't want you getting down on yourself. I also don't know what recovery means for you as a partner. I can tell you one of the things that Tam and I have been talking about, and giving some lectures on, is what is forgiveness? And some people say, and I don't know if it relates to you or not, we can talk more about it, but um, I forgive them or I don't. Have you forgiven them? Yes. Yet. Yes, I have. Forgiveness isn't like that. It's a whole series of stages like grief, and it's a whole contemplation, and I'm angry, and I'm sad, and I'm hopeless. And so part of what I really recommend you do is maybe get a little book that you can find them online. What are the stages of forgiveness? And see where you fall. See where you see yourself in the process of forgiveness. And I'm not just talking about forgiving them, I'm talking about forgiving yourself. Because one of the stages is, what did I do to not, why did I see this? What's wrong with me? That is one of the stages of grief. Remorse is a stage of grief and forgiveness. But the other thing I wanted to say is, what was I going to say to you? Well, part of it depends on what you're seeing. Do you see someone who's working hard on themselves and really committed and taking responsibility and going to these meetings and seeing that group? Do you see someone who is you feel good about, or are you living with a constant sort of, being knocked out of the water and have to swim back on the boat and knocked out of the water? Part of it, it doesn't depend on them in that way because it's nice to detach yourself, but it's a roller coaster, especially if it's in the beginning. So, um, factors, was it make longer or shorter? Your own emotional stability. If you have 3 kids and you're working full time, trust me, it's going to be different than if you are a home person and you have a lot of free time and you're whatever that is for you. So it's circumstantial, it's internal, it's external, what they're doing. What kind of support do you have? Are you going to groups? Again, we have an amazing partners retreat intensive, which I think gives you the opportunity to look at where am I in my own healing and what are my next steps? And I truly do love that. Um, so I will say this to you, and I think it's very important. Well, I'm going to say to all of you that you guys got to say it. Some of you may not be here. You may be listening on YouTube or whatever. Our website is seekingintegrity.com. And my podcast is Sex, Love, and Addiction. So it's seekingintegrity.com and Sex, Love, and Addiction. And the reason I tell you this is because some people sometimes will make recommendations. Sometimes will say, oh, look here, look there. And I want you to understand where to find those things. But the last thing I did want to say to you was, and I really have this here. Oh, you will never trust in the same way again. So if you're thinking, oh, when will they walk out the door? And I'll think, I don't think that's not going to happen. Or I walk out the door, they go on travel. It doesn't go away. Once trust is broken, as Beyonce said, it's like a plate. You can break it, but you will always see the cracks when you glue it back together. And once you know that someone that you love and cares about you can go out in the world and make a choice to do something that hurts you, despite knowing that it will, you'll never forget that. It doesn't mean you can't grow to a meaningful relationship, a deeper relationship, more honest relationship, a more intimate relationship. Because a lot of guys who go to our treatment program realize they've been so non-intimate and so distanced. And maybe telling the truth for the first time does bring you closer, but there'll be always a part of you that lives in doubt. And I'm sorry for that. It's a question that I wouldn't want to carry around with me. I guess I know I'm talking too much, Candy. Hey, Candy. But I call you
I
Amber.
haven't ever been called that. So
Okay. And this is a really bad metaphor, but if I've had cancer, I'm always going to wonder if I'm going to get it back. The more time, 2 years out, 3 years out, yes, I feel more comfortable, but there'll always be a part of me that thinks, God, I'm tired. Am I really sick? What does this mean? I feel this. So you can't trust your body in the same way you could, and you can't trust the relationship, and trust that never fully comes back. So if you're expecting to ever feel the same way you did, you won't. To be at peace, that's a whole different thing. So Tammy, I know we have lots of questions, so I wanted to throw that into
no,
you.
but I would like that sound like Debbie Downer, and I'm going to be a little more hopeful
Debbie
because
Downer.
yes, but so you talk about recovery, and I would say recovery from the healing from a deep wound. This is different. If addicts, we need to be in recovery if we want to live a different life. For partners, it's healing from that deep wound. So I get that. So let's talk about your healing instead of just recovery, because that language can be a little dicey in my book. So, but what does the next 3 years look like? I want to talk about that. One day at a time. Like it isn't like you're like over here and then boom, the needle swings to the other place. It isn't. It's this gradual thing, just like the recovery journey for an addict is. It's not like there's a magical flip switching, at a certain point. But you will start to feel lighter, and he's right. Dr. Rob is right that you won't ever trust that person the same way. But if you're both on that path, you can have a deeper, more connected relationship. And I really believe that partners see, like, they trust their intuition again. So you will start to know
Hmm.
if something's going wonky. It won't it and I'm not saying any partner that's been, betrayed again is at fault, but you can learn some skills that will help, mitigate that, so that you'll go, wait, that's not okay. And I'm not, I'm going to trust me, not, not believe the lies. Now, of course, addicts can get better at hiding things. That's a whole nother story. But let's go back to your healing. One day at a time. If you're here, you're doing the work, you're leaning into other betrayed partners that are further ahead on the process. I put the Empowered Women's Retreat. It's on our Seeking Integrity site. I also put the work groups. Those are
Right.
live facilitated. Angela Spearman
The
does,
classes.
yeah, does a
Hmm.
group that she's going to start again in July. That is a series of very helpful, supportive, opportunities. Now, if you're an addict partner, we also have Sex Addiction 101 or Porn Addiction 101 or Out of the Doghouse, etc. So there's great resources, for you there. But here's the deal: in 3 years, it's going to be 3 years. But what you do on a daily basis that is nurturing to you, that helps fill your soul, coffee with girlfriends, book club, whatever it is, that is not just about focusing on the addiction, the betrayal, but how do you live your
Hmm.
life, in a means that where you're finding joy, even if it's, for 10 minutes here and there, that's how you start to heal.
I did want to ask one more thing
Mhm.
to say, or admit, is that what kind of support do you have? Because I find that people are lost. Where do I fall? Right. So go into one of the support groups and they're absolutely free. They're on Seeking Integrity. There's supposed to be 8 or 10 just for partners and see, oh, this person is here. Maybe, oh, they've just gotten in. So that I'm not asking you to compare yourself, but to get a sense of, where are they? Where am I in this healing related to other people? And then you can sit and talk to them and talk about how did they get there? What are they struggling with? It's really helpful to be a part of rather than out there on your own. And so, anyway, I think my heart goes out to you because I know you want to be at peace and you didn't want your whole world turned upside down and it is. It just is. So, Tammy.
So, and you are not a statistic. So, we're, if it's, 18 months, 24 months, whatever, one day at a time. If you're starting to see, I'm like I'm going to be okay. That's so, like, the Empowered Women's Retreat. Oh my gosh, it doesn't change the circumstances of what you're living in and with, but your focus and the empowerment that you would get, it's amazing and healing. So consider that. Okay,
I have
next
one more
question.
thing to say about
Um,
this.
I
We didn't really answer the second question, which is what does my life look like?
I
And I
did.
think it'll look like being reactive. It'll look like, well, you did. And I said, you'll never trust in the same way. But I also think, you'll have a good day and you'll see a billboard. And also be, wait a minute, that's what, there will be moments that are really triggering for you. And over time, they will become less and less. So I would be kind to yourself. You can expect that there's going to be things you're going to pop up and you think, what am I crazy? I was having a good day. That's what happens. So anyway, I just want to throw that out there. You're
And
not
one thing that
crazy.
counteracts, right, and one thing that counteracts it, you cannot have gratitude and be in the really dark place at the same time. So even if you have gratitude that there's a ray of sunshine, or, like, I've got cool looking shoes, whatever it is that, works for you, like, find those little things of gratitude too. Okay, next one. I'm the unfaithful spouse. I have limited tools in my toolbox when it comes to intimacy with my wife outside of sexual intimacy. What are some things that we can be doing to grow closer to each other?
Wow, that's such a big, I mean, so I want to say that I'm going to put recovery aside in terms of meetings and 12 step. And my hope is that this is a question that comes once you're stable. Because if you're living your life in an unstable way and your sobriety has not become an integrated part of your life, then I wouldn't, as your spouse, I wouldn't want to be closer to you. One of the things we say, and I think it's important, is in the beginning of this process, don't go into couples therapy, because all that happens is the spouse says, "You ruined my life, you ruined my life," and the addict says, "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." So what I'm saying to you is, the ability to build this depends on where you are in the process. But I'm going to make an assumption that you're very much in a good place with this. And first of all, I think, and Tammy's going to have probably more answers than me, but why don't you ask her what would make you feel closer? I'll tell you, and you can ask each other those questions. Here's another one. Write down what you think would make her feel, and then run it by her and say, are these the things? So I think just having a sense of how I look at it, how they look at it, just in your head. Um, the other thing I was going to say about that is, you talk about intimacy, and so many sex addicts, and I completely understand it, think of intimacy as sex, something you do with your clothes off. And when I read letters from the spouses, because we're right, we want a treatment center. It's called Seeking Integrity. What a surprise. And I get letters. Part of the work is we get letters from spouses. And we ask you, can you write about your experience with the person who's in treatment, with your husband, with your partner? And I always expect those letters to say, well, you had sex with this person and you were my life because you did this and that. And the 80% of those letters is you didn't we weren't intimate. You didn't connect with me. You didn't listen to me. You didn't spend time with me. So to me, intimacy, for example, is I'm working at the computer and I say I'm going to stop at 6 o'clock because my partner's waiting for me. I say, gosh, I'm just so busy. I don't have time. For me to respect that they expect me to be somewhere and that brings them closer to me. Um, Here's the biggest one, I think, is would you listen to me? That's what I hear from the spouses the most. I hear, I don't have time. Why is that such a big deal? Why do you keep saying that? We've talked about that. You know, and also intimacy means sharing my feelings. It doesn't just listen to what you have to say. So to me, this is the biggest practice of it, is listening and really taking the time to show up for them in a way that is concrete, understanding. What are they saying? I'm uncomfortable. I want to run away. Tell them that. I want to run away in this moment. I'm tired of you saying that, but it's really hard, but I'm going to sit here. Do you know how intimate that is? Finally, I will give you the definition for intimacy for everyone who's listening. And I absolutely find this to be true in the work that we do. Intimacy is revealing yourself emotionally and then ultimately sexually as well, taking the risk that it might not go well. If I up to you and I say, my heart is broken because this, that, and the other thing, and I feel so sad, and you say, well, let me tell you how sad I am. Or you say, I'm really interested, but right now well, that tells me that I can't be intimate with you because I have opened up, I've made myself vulnerable. And that is a risk. And by taking that risk, if you respond in a way that is moving toward me rather than a way than we've had an intimate moment. In treatment, I'll have guys, we'll sit in rolling chairs. We sit in big office chairs. And I'll say to one of the guys, talk about what you're feeling. And he'll say, well, I'm having a bad day and I'm upset about this and da, da, da. And I'll say to the clients, okay, do you feel closer and more intimate or further away? And they back their chairs up. And then I say, why don't you talk about what's really going on in your heart and what you're struggling with? And he'll say, I'm just so disappointed in myself and I really don't, my spouse will ever forgive me, whatever that is. And I turn to the guys and say, now what? And they all move toward him because he's been willing to open up and share and be vulnerable because that group might not respond. Opening up and listening is what creates intimacy. And then everything else, sex is built on top of all that. So I could go on and on. Tammy, I don't mean to shut you out of this. Do you have some thoughts? It's such a big question.
No, I'm going to point out, I put in the chat, and you can find it on our website, the previously recorded webinars in early June of last year. You looked up the top 15 things for intimacy, and not a single one of them said sex. And you talked about that. So go check that webinar out too. Separately, I did put the work groups. If you are in solid recovery, then Out of the Doghouse would be really helpful for you, I think. And then also there's a healthy intimacy work group. Both of those are on our website, and those could be useful for you. But I love what Dr. Rao was like, communication, using our words, asking. I mean, it's like a scary thing, but it's such a powerful thing.
Okay, so you pushed me, Tammy.
I
So
know we're
I'm going to
playing
give
off
you
each other. It's all good.
five
Okay.
words that do not involve sex that show you're being intimate. Number one, deep listening, giving full attention, remembering details, and responding like, tell me more. I really want to understand what you're going through. Two, showing vulnerability. sharing your fears, your dreams, your insecurities. I've never told anyone this before, but I want you to know, I love this when I think of it, sitting in silence together, being with each other without having to fill that space with words. Remembering small things, following up. And I'm not married to someone who says, guess what I want, but I have to listen. Oh, right. They need it and really pay attention to that little teeny things where I'm five, non-sexual touch, a hand on the shoulder, a warm hug, brushing someone's hair, gentle caressing their face, a reassuring touch on the back when they're having a hard moment. It's that. And I want to point out they're all about connecting. Many of them are not in any way, except the last one, about even physically touching each other. So that is how you build it, little piece at a time.
Okay. So the next one, 11 months post D-Day, married 13 months. My husband has been lying about his triggers at check-ins, saying he's not having them. Last night I asked and he lied, but after pointing out the hole in his story, he admitted to lying. He's now wanting to remove lying from his middle circle. Is this acceptable?
So I don't know, just to say circles. So sobriety for us, or is not, is it's kind of in three levels. You can look at it as columns. One of it is, if I do this, I have broken my sobriety. I had sex with this person. I went to their house. I looked at porn. The second one, which we'd call the middle, is warning signs. I lied. Uh-oh, I'm lying. Something's wrong. I smoked a cigarette. I haven't been smoking in a while. Um, I had a fight with someone at work and I don't usually get angry. So the things that, or I didn't do something that's good for me. I didn't go to a meeting. I didn't meditate. So that second column is like awareness. It's, uh-oh, I'm in trouble here. And then the third one, which I think is just as important, is what am I doing to enjoy my life? Because I don't want to give this up and not find some joy. I mean, in AA, they have sober dances because people say, oh, I'll never enjoy not drinking. Well, you can, and you have to feel that. So I don't know what inner circle is. Middle, to me, I cannot call lying a bottom line behavior. Because if I spend 11 months not sexually acting out, but I lie to you, I'm not willing to give up 6 months or up all that, not seeing partners and not going to sex workers and not going to porn. Um, those are lying is something that is a sign that I'm in trouble and something I need to deal with and be honest about. But it is not it's sort of like lust. I was attracted to that person. I looked at that person. Well, that is not the same as I went and had sex with that person. So, and by the way, what spouses often want as a bottom line are not necessarily what a bottom line is. Um, there are some things I want to briefly say is, and D-Day in this case, T-Day can mean two different things. So Tammy, do you want to say the two
But we're going to say
Ds?
this is Discovery Day versus this does not sound like formal therapeutic disclosure. So this is Discovery Day, 11 months post Discovery. So you were married for 2 months and then you had Discovery. So
So I want to ask Tammy to talk a little bit about the professionals and disclosure and what all these pieces are and what you can do from a therapy perspective. But I will tell you, and this may or may not be where you are, I would be doubting my marriage. I would be saying, look, this didn't just happen, 2 months ago. You've been doing this, and trust me, your whole life. You've been lying, you've been cheating, you've broken off past relationships. Even if you've been going out for a while, you're now married. It's a different level of commitment. And I'm not saying what you should or shouldn't do. It's just that I have had spouses, and I will say to you, and maybe you've been married, maybe you're in your 60s. I don't know how long you've been married, so I can't say that. But certainly younger couples, I've heard partners say, I'm not sure that I want to have children. I'm not sure that I want to be tied to this situation for the rest of my life. And love is great. But if you love an active heroin addict who's smoking crack and is still living with their mother and is still divorced, love is not necessarily what the feelings are not necessarily what you want to follow. It's the facts. So I have heard younger couples say, before we go down this road of all this living together, we may want to look at this because older couples, they have they have kids, they have family, they have church, they have homes, they have friends, they have all this stuff that drives them to stay together. And the younger couples, I often see questioning it because they're wondering, the spouse is wondering, is this something I really want to manage for a very long time? And if I've been married 2 months and and by the way, I'll say one more thing. He lied to you when he married you. He lied to you. If he knew that this was an issue for you, then you entered a relationship without having the full information about, now I can understand, I don't want him to know because maybe they won't marry me or whatever. He didn't make himself vulnerable. He wasn't honest. how could you marry me and ask me to make that commitment? And you didn't tell me one of the most meaningful, difficult things about you that might have influenced the choices that I've made. And I've heard a lot of spouses say, I just never had a choice. I never had a choice about what I wanted to do going forward. So I hope you work it out. I hope it's a wonderful thing for you. I hope that the joy and love that you share will carry you beyond the healing process. But I think there's a lot to think about how you want to go forward in your life. And I have heard women say, I don't know if I want to have a child with this person now. I thought I did, but now I'm not sure. And unfortunately, I think you do have to. And by the way, the women's groups for sure, Tammy. There are other young married women. Anyway, I'm gonna stop. So you go ahead and I'll be
So
quiet.
two things I put, we did a whole series on should I stay or should I go? And I think, if you choose to stay, then you've made the decision. It's like there's I put the link, so check it out. If you're watching this later, email tami@seekingintegrity.com and I'll send you the link to the blog. It's on our website too. The other thing I was thinking though, I was like, so what I'm hearing you saying is he wants to move lying to his outer circle, which is the things that make our lives better, that are showing, that nurture our lives and do every good thing. Because I don't think he wants to move it to his inner circle. He just wants to erase it. Like, and that is not recovery. Is we learn to take responsibility. The fourth step is made a searching and fearless moral inventory. We have to be honest. Honesty is the crux of recovery. Seeking integrity. I love the name of our program because we seek integrity and we want to help people that are coming to us for help get that integrity. You cannot be in recovery and constantly lying about everything. One more thing, Dr. Rob wrote his most popular book is Out of the Doghouse, and he shares an example where a partner, the addict partner, lied about taking out the trash, and she chose to divorce because if he can't tell the truth about taking out the trash, how can she ever believe that anything else is true? And so, yeah, I'm sorry, and I'm with Dr. Rob. Like, I think you need to really look carefully at this. You get to choose, and there's zero judgment, but you have somebody who's giving you data that no, I don't really want to work on the lying, rather than going, oh my gosh, I keep lying. I need to lean in. I need to work on this. I need to talk to my therapist about this. I need to talk to my 12-step sponsor. I need to be consistent in my 12 step and talk to them about, whatever I just said was lying, minimize lies of omission, minimizing are still lies, so there's a lot to consider in all of this.
I want to say I'm angry at him for you. I'm angry because you're new. Like, where is the I just married this person, and where is the I love them and I don't want to hurt them, and this has been so. I mean, you just went through this joyful. Not as he ruined that for you, but you know my commitment would be to do everything. I wouldn't want you to find a hole in my story. I love you and I'm breaking this and I want to fix it. And so, I just, again, I will give him this. He admitted to lying, but only after you caught him. So how many other things don't you know? I don't know. My heart goes out to you. And I hope things
Likewise,
work out.
for you, you can heal from this regardless of what he does or doesn't do. But I'm begging you, be focused on working on
You.
you. Yeah. Okay, betrayer here. My partner has expressed some dismay about the disconnect between treatment options for the betrayer addict and the betrayed partner. They're they are so damaged and have no intense focus options equivalent to inpatient treatment that I
Mm.
am aware of. Is there such a thing out there, literally like an inpatient treatment for betrayed partners, since in my experience need and deserve more than weekly therapy, etc., webinars? I get the option to go to treatment. Why can't she have the same? So there are programs that deal like we there and there have been a handful of partners that have been so dysregulated that they absolutely needed, a higher level, a higher acuity trauma treatment.
And I want to say
Um,
what that is. They weren't eating. They didn't want to live. I mean,
didn't want to get
sorry,
out of
Tammy, that
bed, couldn't,
level
yeah,
of
yeah,
just seeing so overwhelmed and so
yes.
depressed, a weekend, a workshop, those, you really do need more care. And I would agree with that. Thanks, Tammy.
Yes. And there are places. So if someone is struggling like that, please let me know because I can make referrals for that. That said, most partners are not there. They need more help. Some of them are resistant to that, but getting proper support with a qualified therapist, getting connection to others so they are not feeling isolated. Often our Empowered Women's Retreat, I mean, that's amazing and healing. I mean, you cannot
Really,
believe how much different they look from the moment they walk in the door until the night before they leave. They're laughing, they're connected, they're relaxed. It's insane that they make that much transformation. So it depends. But it's hard. I mean, it's hard to get betrayed partners to sign up for our online
anything.
work groups. Yeah, like
Hmm.
it's often, oh no, he's got the issue,
Right.
and so it's challenging. So like even female addicts, I'll share this. You know, we tried multiple times to have a work group for female addicts. They didn't show up. You know, so it's so yes, while help is needed, and I do have some good options. So if that is the case where somebody really needs a higher level of help, you know, do email tami@seekingintegrity.com. I have multiple different options for different levels of healing. So,
And I do want to say something about the women's retreat, and all of this. We're not trying to sell you anything. I mean, if we mention one of our programs on what our work is, because we really do believe it's good. And Tammy will always make referrals to other people. But I can say that particular program is very powerful. And you know what? You go through a program like that, and they may say, you need more of this. Because part of it is being evaluated and being around people who, can get a sense of what's going on with you. Why don't partners have the same level of care well, first of all, who's going to take care of the family? Who's going to take care of the business? Who's going to manage, while we're off, and by the way, it's hard for you partners because we're off, we're being taken care of, they're feeding us, we're looking at ourselves, and you're struggling and you're miserable. I would be resentful. How come this person, and when I'm the one who's struggling? On the other hand, if we don't stop acting out, there's no hope of anything getting better. So we don't deal with that work in a level that allows us to really see it and stop. You will nothing will get better. So yes, you need the support, you need the attention, you need the validation, and you need to also, there are different things I want to say. Addicts need structure, confrontation, challenge, education. There's a whole structured way, and I mean 9 a.m. this, 10 a.m. that we are constantly pushing those guys and educating them and supporting them and holding them. Spouses need nurturing. You need to be held. You need to be supported. You need other people, and part of that is, yeah, if you're falling apart, you need to go somewhere to get some help for that. But build a good community. And women, I have to say, are really good at this. You're much more empathic. You don't go it alone in the same ways, and you have to seek each other out. And there are so many, again, free opportunities. I would, by the way, Tammy, if you'd recommend Prodependence, I wrote a book for partners who are blaming themselves and feeling responsible. And that whole model of codependency where people are saying, well, what's your part? It's like, well, I don't see what kind of part I could have in him seeing 100 sex workers. You're right. The only part is that you loved them and believed in them, and now your heart is broken. So, if you're feeling, by the way, that codependency is a model that's zeroing on you as having a problem when you're not the one who caused it, I do recommend it. But that might be something to help as well.
okay,
So,
I put the podcast because you got a podcast. So I put the podcast and the book, so you can
right.
find them. So yeah,
Can I say one more
so
thing? I know we don't,
please.
but hopefully everything helps everybody. So I did a couple of podcasts with experts on separation and divorce. And the one on separation, a divorce, is about negotiating, do you work a lawyer? Do you know what is that?
Collaborative,
Yeah,
yes.
collaborative divorce. But the one on separation, man, I thought was amazing because it isn't just I'm leaving. It's really planning and organizing and, not doing it, you can do it in an emotional state, but who's going to be here this? And are we going to talk every day? Are we not going to talk every day? Really planning that out. And one of the things they said about an in-house situation, in other words, you can't go anywhere. And I love this. It's kind of like being roommates. You're living together and you live like a couple of roommates. I think that's a great example of what in-house separation is like. And you don't sleep with your roommate, so there's a lot of, and by the way, one more thing. Are you having sex with this person? Are you sleeping with them? Are you sleeping in the same bed? Because Tammy would say there are boundaries you need to set for yourself so that you don't get triggered all the time. And if I was lying, losing my mind next to someone and they seemed like they were sleeping, I probably wouldn't want them in my bed. So anyway, please keep going. I know we to rush
So
around.
we have a webinar coming up because on June 19th, the the podcast that you did. We've got them coming on to join me for a webinar.
Oh, they're
So
so
you'll be
great.
able to join, watch that, but also ask questions. So I just put that in the chat too.
And
It's
they wrote a
Therapeutic
book.
Separation 101, Navigating Therapeutic Separation. So that's June 19th from 11 to noon Pacific time. So join me and them. Okay. We're in early recovery. I'm still in
Mhm.
shock, hurt, trauma, and I can't offer a lot of nice compliments and warmth yet. But my husband says he needs to leave instead of prioritizing our relationship, healing, and stay committed. He wants to step away and find external validation and support from other people instead. I am all alone and devastated. He is leaving me alone in this. Is he right to leave me instead of staying with our family?
So they're talking about leave.
Yeah.
So, right. So there's a couple of things here. Number one, just to say it for those of you who aren't in the leave situation, in my recovery, especially in the early stages, I do need an attaboy. I do need a you're working hard. Gosh, you're going to a lot of meetings. I'm really impressed. Good for you. But I shouldn't get it from you. I broke your heart. And it's not fair to me. First of all, I'm asking you to betray yourself. Like, hey, be nice to me, even though you destroyed my life. I do need other men and other people of support to say I'm doing well and they feel good about me. It's not you. And if you feel pressure to do that, it's not your responsibility. So I'm just going to guess at this because I don't know these people, but this man's still acting out. He's having an affair. He is involved in some way that he does not want to leave. And maybe he's been thinking about leaving for a very long time. And now he has an excuse. Well, you're angry at him all the time and you're not giving what I need. And isn't that convenient to make you feel bad that he is going to go do whatever he wants? But I heard early recovery. Early recovery means I got a plan. I've been working on this for 3 years and I'm not sure we could stay together. I get that. But early recovery and you're being blamed because you're not prioritizing the relationship and he wants to step away to find external validation. Let me tell you, as a sex addict, I had a lot of external validation. I had sex workers, I had affairs, I had porn, I had a lot of external validation. Honestly, and it isn't fair of me to say, and I don't know you, but there's something else going on here and he has an agenda. And I would not be surprised at all if he is giving himself permission to blame you and go do whatever the heck he wants to do without someone bugging him about it. Yeah, Tammy?
If he's leaving for an hour to go to his S12 step group and or meet with his sponsor, that would be different. But when you're saying he needs to go externally and get outside validation, I'm with Dr. Rob. So you can't change him. Of course you're hurting. So what are you doing to, I'm glad you're here, but this is healthy boundaries for you. I often hear partners going, he's leaving and he's choosing to do all this. And I'm going like, and okay, then what do you need to do to take care of you? Why does it get to be his choice about what he's doing?
Right.
I mean, you can't make anybody do whatever, but on the other hand, it's like, if he's not willing to do the work that he needs to do in order to be in recovery, recovery takes 2 to 5 years. We talked about that a little bit earlier with someone else, but 2 to 5 years if you're doing the work. If he's just going and looking for external validation and he even owns that, oh my gosh, like I'm going to go get external validation. Somebody's going to tell me
No,
how
you
wonderful
can't.
I am, like, no, seriously. It's like, no, I need
I
to
know.
take accountability and responsibility for
Humility.
my behaviors, what I have done, and how do I change this so that I am not continuing that pattern that's going to wreak destruction through the family. So I will ask you, partner, to what are you doing to take care of you? And again, TAMI at seekingintegrity.com. Tell me where you're located and I'll help you find a good qualified professional to support you through this process. Healthy boundaries for you. I can't say that loud enough.
Yeah, my first response to this, and I know that this seems silly, but change the locks because he's going to change his mind and he's going to come running back. And if you're saying, "Oh, thank goodness you chose me over that," then he knows he can come and go whenever he wants. So yeah, I agree with boundaries. Someone's going to walk out on you, they're going to walk out on you, and I wouldn't sit around saying, "When are they going to come back and why didn't they come back?" Because that's about them. I would say, "What
Yeah.
am I doing to protect myself so that I am safe?" And they just don't march back in whenever they feel like it. Where's your anger? Where is your anger? This is an
I
indignity.
don't, yeah, I
And
know,
your
to me,
family, not just
like,
you.
let's be angry for her because this feels like she's in so much pain right now. So we're
And
going
you
to
love
be
someone,
angry
I
for
get,
you. Yeah. Yeah.
but you did not make this happen. And there's nothing you can do to change it. This was his to say. He blames you. It gives me an excuse to say, I deserve to leave, but trust me, there is nothing. You know what? If I'm not happy in my relationship, I can go to therapy. I can go for a walk. I can say, this isn't working out. Let's go to therapy. I can say, let's get a divorce and work on it. But to just leave, how incredibly disrespectful and awful, like devastate your life and then trampled on top of you.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm angry at him too.
And it's all about him. I need validation. Like you apparently don't need anything. He needs validation,
Mhm.
external validation. Okay. Enough. Okay. Betrayed partner here from New Zealand. Welcome. Separated at the moment, husband in early recovery and SLAA, not acting out, but still lying, distorted reality. Okay. So this is abstinence. Just not acting out is abstinence. Recovery is like takes a whole bunch more work. I told him I didn't want to live with him or anyone else for 2 weeks later. When I reminded him about that, he was shocked and said I'd never said that. After days of arguing, he said that because I'd said we could talk about it at another time, that meant the same thing. Oh, goodness. He told me that I needed to be more clear and that saying you never said that is the same as I thought we could still talk about it. I feel crazy in these conversations. He did this a lot in addiction. Any feedback is appreciated.
So if you could define the word gaslighting,
Yes.
this defines it. This is my reality. Oh no, that's not what I said. It's different. He is deliberately, and I'm not talking about forgetting about something. He is deliberately wanting to confuse you and make you think this is that because he wants what he wants to do. Look, I don't care what he says. You know inside of yourself that you said this. Kick him out and change the locks. You have to take care of. I don't mean to be Cami. I don't say angry at these spouses. I'm not. I'm frustrated for you that you're falling for this crap and you're questioning if it's okay and not. Of course, it's not okay. Of course, you feel crazy. The whole point of gaslighting is the movie comes from an Alfred Hitchcock movie where a man wants his wife's wealth and he tells her so much. She says it's right and he says it's left. And she said, I heard something. And he said he didn't. And finally, she just loses her mind. And he says,
He
and what
turns the gas lamp down, like, and she, like, it's like I watched the movie.
gaslighting,
It's crazy.
right?
Yeah. It's
And
that's
his
where it
point
came from.
is to make her crazy. And the way he makes her crazy is he stops her believing in herself over and over again. This man doesn't, he wants what he wants, and he's poisoning your mind in order to be able to get what he wants. And it's your fault. So this man is, I want to say, this man is very sick. This is someone, by the way, I'd welcome in my treatment center because I was kick his, and we do get people from Japan and Ireland and South Africa, all over the world.
And
This is
Australia
someone,
and New Zealand. Yeah. We've
and
had people from, yeah,
Australia
yeah, yeah,
and Singapore.
yeah.
Um, this, I hope that you do distance yourself from this because the question is at a certain point, and Tammy, you're going to have to correct this. Are you letting this man drive you crazy? Is your commitment to him and connection with him? Go ahead, Tammy, say it because I want you to say it better than I
Well,
did.
so here's what I'm going like the arguing you're like
Right.
the story you're telling yourself is that I said something and I just so I'm going to go take care of me. He's keeping you in the in the fray of things. You are still
Hmm.
engaged because you're arguing,
Right.
and so what happens
Right.
if you go I, I know the story you're telling yourself is that I said that or that I agreed to that, and I'm going to disagree, and I'm going to go take care of me. Boom. That's and it takes you out. But no addict changes until the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same, and he
Kick
gets to
his
stay
ass
in
out.
this. Yeah, he gets to stay in all this. What happens if you just went? I'm done playing that game. I call it the negative two step. That in country music you can do a two-step and you do this, I do this, you do this, I do this, and you guys are wearing out a pattern in the floor and nothing
Hmm.
changes. You change the choreography and you go, yeah, I'm done playing that game, I'm going to change the choreography. I'm not saying it'll make a difference for him necessarily. It could, but guess what, you're going to go, oh my gosh, I feel better about myself because I am not in on the crazy train with somebody who's gaslighting me. And you can't, if even if you wrote a document and you both signed it, he would still tell you that that wasn't true. So you can't win that game.
Two things. Thank you. I'm sorry. Number one, he's trying to wear you down. Days of
Mm-hmm.
arguing. Finally, you'll give in. And by the way, the days of arguing mean he's still around. He's still getting
Mm-hmm.
what he wants because you haven't said enough. Enough. Your word is enough. You know what? Even if you said it wrong, even if you did it wrong, this is what you want. And you get to say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you misunderstood, but these are my decisions. And by the way, you said 2 weeks. It isn't like forever. He'd have to actually, anyway, please follow up what you believe in. And if you don't believe in it, do it anyway, and see what happens.
And if
Okay.
he won't go, like we always say, boundaries are for what am I like? You go off to a spa or go do something, go see a girlfriend, go see somebody. Like if he won't leave, you go. If you can. I know there could be children, etc. But like, what can you do so that you can go? Yep, I'm not gonna keep doing
And
that.
they need a therapist, because
Oh
there
yeah,
is
like
one
yeah,
thing that couples therapy is good for in the beginning. It's setting a boundary. You're going to do this. You're not going to do that. You get to, beyond that, not helpful, but just being able to say, okay, you're going to do this, and have a witness. Because what I hear is there's no one witnessing. This is what they said. And having someone there, okay, I heard this, whether it's your pastor or someone in your life who can hear it and say, nope, that's what she said. I think would be really, really helpful. Don't be on your, even if you go to one of the support groups and
yeah.
say, I've said this. Anyway, Tammy, we got lots of questions.
I know, and we aren't going to get to all of them, but we're
I
going to
know.
the next one. Betrayed wife here. We are 3 months past D-Day, and my spouse is terrified of full disclosure. That makes me think I don't know the half of what actually went on through 3 partial disclosures, which makes me so incredibly anxious. I can barely have coherent thought in a day. Is that normal for the betrayer to be terrified of formal disclosure?
Well, I just have to disregard the rest of it for the moment and say the answer to the last question. Every man I've ever worked with is terrified of disclosure. They, and what is the reason? They figure you're finally gonna have a reason to leave, or they finally are going to see how much they've hurt you, and of course, it's all about them. Well, they'll be so angry at me. They're going to be so disappointed in me. They're not going to want to, unfortunately, and this is where they are, they're not thinking how hard this must be for her to hear this and how devastated she must be. They're not in that place. This is a very selfish place to be. I'm terrified because I don't want you to respond in a way that's going to hurt me. So, but they are all terrified. I mean, I'll absolutely say that because, they've been protecting these lives forever. And now you're going to hear all this stuff. Um, I do want you, Tammy, to address the I'm so anxious and also the 3 partial disclosures, because I think, how can you trust someone if they told you 3 times? Actually, I'll say one more thing is spouses want to know your life is a free for all. You want foundation. You think you finally found that spot, and all of a sudden it cracks open and there's more information and you're in free fall again. And this time it happens enough times and you can't feel like you're ever safe. So Tammy, I not giving you enough time tonight. I'm so sorry.
So I would invite you to say, stop. I don't want to hear anything more until we have our formal therapeutic disclosure with our qualified professionals. No, because you're right. That drip drip is constant anxiety. His level of fear is what Dr. Rob said. That's on him. What are you doing to take care of yourself? What are you doing to stay regulated? But stopping the like, I'm going to get this, having a date scheduled, and if he's working towards it, said this is a process. And here's another thing: we talk about putting a relationship in safe harbor. If you've got the formal therapeutic disclosure set for, I hope, within the next 60 days, then go, I'm putting the relationship in safe harbor for this time. Now this is helpful for you and him, but it's like, I'm putting them in safe harbor. I'm going to
Which
wait and
means,
see. Hang on, I'm going to wait and see what you are doing, and during that time I am
right.
not going to threaten divorce. I'm not going to say you need to do this or whatever. I'm just going to wait and see. And that means you don't have to be thinking about, should I stay or should I go? Should I stay or should I go? No, both of you get a reprieve from that. He hopefully is working his tushy off on getting the formal therapeutic disclosure in a fashion so that it will be complete. And that would be the understanding, is like, we are going to do this to set that foundation that Dr. Rob was talking about. And then formal therapeutic disclosure, you have that. This is not the gory details. This is not the 100-page narrative of, like, minute by minute, blow by blow. This is, you have a compilation of stuff, and I'm sure he has compartmentalized in all of those things. But if he's working towards healing the relationship, then he's going to show up, he's going to do the formal therapeutic disclosure. You're going to have the support of your qualified professionals to help you navigate that process and be able to move forward. So I get the anxiety. The more regulated you can do, we talk all the time about partners staying regulated, doing the work that you need to do in order so that you keep your thinking brain online instead of that whole thing. So we've talked about it before in webinars. You reference it. I created a little cheat sheet, so you can always email me if you need some helpful hints on things to do to regulate. Okay. So this one, trust never fully comes back. Wow, that's depressing thing. The most depressing thing I've heard in weeks. How do you stay together when you'll never trust your partner? That's not what we said.
Uh,
It was not that you'll never trust your partner. You can never naively, I use that word and I don't mean it
right,
at all, in a negative way, but you can't fully trust your partner like you did before because you know that that
right.
person can hurt you. But you can also learn to trust yourself so that you will know. So honestly, you can have a better, more honest, more connected relationship. You can have way better than you ever had before because somebody was lying and deceiving and hiding, and now you can have a transparent and more connected relationship. So this is not a bad thing. It's just that 100% trusting somebody. I think we always should have healthy boundaries and be paying attention and reading stuff. Humans are humans. Like, I hurt people, I disappoint people. They shouldn't 100% trust me. I want to be trustworthy, but I'm still going to mess up from time to time. So,
It's not black and white. You will never
mhm.
trust in the same way.
Right, right.
So I'm going to give you the silliest example in the world, but this is true for me and Tammy. So I've never been late for an event that I've spoken at. I've never been late for a patient, but these things I can be late for. And Tammy knows, at the last minute, I may not be there. I'm texting her saying, oh my God, I'm late, whatever. I don't think she really trusts that I will always be here on time. I don't think she always trusts that I'm going to reach out and show up for her. She's asked me, could you please be on time? It's important to me. Sometimes whatever happens, happens. And it's me not respecting her and how important that is to her. I'll never win that trust back. She will always wonder if I'm 5 minutes late. Why is he late? What does this mean? Does he remember? Does he not? So, in the littlest way, betrayal is betrayal. It can be big, it can be small. But I can win Tammy's she can be encouraged. She can feel positive. She can say, I'm really see him working last few weeks. He's been really on time. But there will always be a doubt in her mind. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to end up doing this alone. Did he remember? She cares for me, I care about her, but something happened and it's not gonna go away. Um, I think what I can do is um give her a sense I'm really working on it and that I really do respect her, and I'm going to do everything I can to not let her down. But I can't promise. I can't promise. So, Tammy, is that a fair little
No,
teeny
it is. And I was going to
example?
say, and you have done, and I do trust more. Like, I would say that my trust factor for you showing up on time before was on the lower end.
Iffy.
And now, yeah, no, now I honestly, he is good about, like, like, he lets me know, and it isn't like, oh, I'm just getting a cup of coffee. It's like something happened, like there's something,
A
and
dog threw up or just
yeah,
something.
I mean, there's
Right.
something, and that has reduced,
Right.
like, I honestly, I do trust him more, like, lots more. Like, I honestly think it would be more of an aberration if he was late, versus the other way around. So
And you know what else?
trust
She
is built.
trusts my answer
Yes, yes, I do.
more.
That is
So you say,
actually
well,
true.
maybe
Yeah,
he's saying, maybe I don't know, but now it's like, oh yeah, I really believe because there's been enough demonstration of consistency that she can say, you know what, I don't think he's making this stuff up. Um,
yes.
so anyway, I want to keep going, Tammy, but thank you for
We,
forgiving. And
yeah,
she has
no, no,
forgiven
no.
me.
Thank you for working on it. No, like, it does really cause me anxiety. I'm like to be a professional. I want to show up on time, all of those things. And so when we aren't doing that, it bothered me, and he knew it, and he worked on it. And I am incredibly
Mm,
grateful. So thank you. Okay, so the next one, I
one
have
more time
decided,
for one more.
yes, one more. I have decided to move out after almost 5 years since discovering my husband's essay, and he has started to stonewall me since I shared the news. I'm starting to feel my abandonment wound being triggered. I meet with my therapist next week, but I feel guilty for leaving, even if it is temporary for now. I need to remove myself from this environment where he is not doing the work and our kids are not seeing a healthy marriage. How can I continue with my decision because I know it's my next best step? Thank you for sharing that. I can feel how hard this is for you.
Well, I also know that you're going to feel guilty no matter what. Forget abandoned wounds, forget your history. And I don't mean to be dismissive, but there's so many things about the father of my kids. We have responsibility to work things out. We have this life together. Everyone, and remorse. Wish I'd done it better. Maybe if I'd done this, maybe I'd done that. I have to tell you though that you have insight that really touch, he's stonewalling me. I feel my abandonment stuff. He's right, but I feel uncomfortable. I feel guilty. I really I think you are in a very good place because you're one of my favorite places in treatment is when someone can actually observe themselves. They're not in it. They're saying, "Oh wow, look at me doing it," and you have that place of observation. I do recommend. Tammy, has that podcast gone up yet? The one on was it a therapeutic separation or healthy separation? I don't know if that's gone up yet.
No, I just looked at before we did this on what the current ones are. So I put the link for the podcast and I'm going to follow up because there's a couple of ones I'm hoping to get out in the next week or so. So
But those folks
stay
wrote a
tuned.
book.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember. What are their names? Just give me a quick, because it's
So
really helpful.
I put the blog in. It's Therapeutic
Okay,
Separation 101. So check that out. It has a link to the book too. It's in the chat. It's Lindsay Stanley and Dr. Stevie
right,
Hall.
right,
But
right.
it's
They're
in
great.
it's in at the 540 mark on the chat. So
And what it's about, and I do agree, is having a plan. Separation means we're going to talk this often or we're not. I'm going to take responsibility for this. Where are we going to do the finances? And I guess I want to say this last thing. Feelings aren't facts. Feelings aren't facts. When you take your emotional self out of it and you just look on a piece of paper and say, this is why we're doing this. This is for this period of time. My responsibility, their responsibility. It's a lot easier to focus on the concrete things because once we start to get in our feelings, we're lost. And as a therapist, I'm supposed to say, oh, what are you feeling and how are you feeling it? And tell me about your feelings. At least that's what they tell me. In this case, I would say your feelings are less relevant than the facts of what you're going through. And so I would try as best you can to put your feelings aside and say, what is the best thing for me and for my children? The best thing I heard here by what I was in this whole thing, our kids are not seeing a healthy marriage. Let me tell you, if you can't sit in this for yourself, sit in it for them and sit it and say, I may feel terrible and it's the best thing for my children for me to do this. It will take you right out of you because nothing could be important than, as Tammy would say, your kiddos. So,
yes. Well,
right,
and I was just thinking, yes, I agree. And I do. I left my first marriage because I was like, what am I modeling for my child? And I was like, this is not what I would ever want for her. And yeah, anyway, that's a whole nother story. But I was like, I know your abandonment wound is getting poked, and I have a massive abandonment wound. But guess what? He abandoned you when
right,
he chose not to do recovery. He abandoned you when he's
right,
stonewalled. He's abandoned you along the way. So he isn't going to be the person to help fill the
right,
abandonment wound.
right,
There are other people that can help you heal that wound. But
right.
for me, just going, oh, there's my abandonment wound getting poked, and I can say it in that voice and go, yep, there it is, and I can come alongside myself and remind myself, as an adult, I'm going to be okay. I also have a massive rejection wound, and that may be, so I did put Troy Love's Finding Peace book. He has a workbook, and that could be really useful, for you, in this moment. I love Dr. Eddie Caparucci's Inner Child for Betrayed Partners. You may find that useful too. It may be just a nice distraction for you in the moment to kind of, find some of those things. But I'm with Dr. Rob. Hold steady for you and your kiddos. You want to make sure that you are taking care of you and your children. But they are your responsibility. He's, unfortunately choosing a negative path.
We have you in mind. Again, my podcast, Sex, Love, and Addiction. We have 2 million downloads. There are people who listen to it. They tell their spouse, you go listen to this in the car, whatever. We don't make a penny from the podcast, but sure has helped a lot of people, including that
Yes.
discussion about therapeutic separation. So thanks,
Well,
Tammy.
and we have another one too, overcoming betrayal and trauma. No,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, overcoming betrayal and addiction is the other podcast, and that one has had, I don't even remember. We're pushing like 500,000 on that one now too. So
Crazy.
it's a different format, but that's been, I mean, that is helpful. So anyway, we can be helpful. Lots of videos, drop in groups, check them all out. Stay tuned. Thanks, Dr. Rob. So appreciate it.
Toodles, you guys. Hang in there.
Bye.